There's a quiet power in silence that most of us overlook. In a world where everyone seems to be competing to be heard, what if the key to influence and connection lies not in speaking more, but in speaking less? Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What if that strength could be harnessed through silence, through the deliberate choice to hold back, to observe, and to let others come to you? Stoicism teaches us that self-control isn't just about managing our actions, it's about mastering our presence, our words, and even our absence. Today, we'll explore how staying silent can make others miss you, value you, and see you in a new light. We'll dive into the Stoic practices that can transform the way you navigate relationships, conflicts, and personal growth. So, what if silence isn't just empty space, but a tool for creating lasting influence? Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This simple but profound idea points to the power of stillness, not just physical stillness, but the kind that quiets our impulses and reactions. Think about it. How often do we jump into conversations or arguments without fully understanding the situation? Reacting in the heat of the moment rarely leads to clarity or resolution. Instead, it often escalates tension and clouds our judgment. What if the most powerful thing you could do in those moments was nothing at all? Imagine you're in the middle of a heated disagreement. Instead of firing back, you take a step back, literally and emotionally. By choosing stillness, you create space to think, to breathe, to see the bigger picture. This isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about mastering it. When you pause, you reclaim control over your emotions and actions. You become the calm in the storm, and that's where true clarity begins. So, when do you feel most compelled to speak? Is it when you're angry, defensive, or eager to prove a point? What might change if you stayed silent instead, allowing your stillness to speak for you? This is the essence of self-mastery, knowing when to act and when to simply be still. Cognitive detachment is one of the most transformative Stoic practices, and it all starts with a simple shift in focus. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." At its core, this idea is about letting go of the need to control outcomes, especially the ones that are beyond your influence. Think about it. How much energy do we waste worrying about how others will react, whether we'll succeed, or if things will go as planned? The truth is, we can't control external results, but we can control how we respond to them. Take a moment to consider a situation where you felt anxious or frustrated. Maybe it's a project at work or a conversation with a loved one. What would happen if, instead of clinging to a specific outcome, you allowed yourself to focus only on your effort, your integrity, and your mindset? Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting outcomes dictate your peace. For example, imagine you're preparing for a presentation. Instead of obsessing over whether your audience will be impressed, you focus on delivering your best work, and then you let go. This shift in perspective can be liberating. It frees you from unnecessary stress and allows you to engage with others from a place of calm and authenticity. So, how might detaching from outcomes change your interactions with others? What would it feel like to show up fully without the weight of expectations? That's the power of cognitive detachment. It's not about giving up, it's about gaining freedom. One of the most overlooked yet powerful skills in Stoicism is the art of listening. Epictetus said, "Nature gave us 1 tongue and 2 ears so we could listen twice as much as we speak." This isn't just a clever observation, it's a profound reminder of where true connection begins. Listening isn't passive, it's an active practice of presence and understanding. It's about setting aside your ego, your agenda, and even your internal dialogue to fully hear what someone else is saying. Think about it. How often do we listen with the intent to reply rather than to understand? We're so focused on crafting our next sentence that we miss the nuances, the emotions, and the meaning behind the words being spoken. Now, imagine a conversation where you're fully present, where your silence becomes a space for the other person to feel seen and heard. What could that do for your relationships, whether it's with a colleague, a friend, or a family member? Active listening builds trust and respect. It shows that you value the other person's perspective, even if you don't agree with it. For example, imagine a disagreement with a loved one. Instead of preparing your defense, you listen not just to their words, but to the feelings behind them. Suddenly, the dynamic shifts. The conversation becomes less about who's right and more about understanding each other. So, when was the last time you truly listened without planning your response? What might you discover if you made listening a priority in your next conversation? Seneca once wrote, "Silence is a great source of strength." At first glance, this might seem counterintuitive. After all, isn't power often equated with speaking up, with making your voice heard? But think about it for a moment. When someone chooses silence over noise, what does it convey? It shows they're unshaken, that they're not scrambling to fill the void with words. That kind of restraint is a mark of true confidence. Silence isn't empty, it's full of intention. It can communicate more than words ever could. Take, for example, the story of a seasoned negotiator who, during a high-stakes meeting, remained silent while the opposing party presented their demand. Instead of interrupting or immediately countering, they listened intently, their calm demeanor subtly shifting the dynamics of the room. That silence wasn't passive, it was strategic. It created an air of authority, forcing the other side to question their own position. This is the strength of silence. It's a tool that can disarm, influence, and command respect. So, how might silence amplify your presence in a challenging situation? Whether it's in a disagreement, a negotiation, or even a personal conflict, silence can be your ally. It's not about withholding words, but about choosing when to speak, and when to let your quiet confidence speak for you. What might happen if, instead of rushing to fill the silence, you embraced it as an opportunity to stand firm? Sometimes the most impactful thing you can do is step away. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If we're constantly immersed in a whirlwind of activity, noise, and distraction, how can we expect to see clearly? This is where the concept of absence comes into play. It's not about neglecting responsibilities or abandoning relationships. It's about creating intentional space to reflect, recharge, and gain perspective. Think about social media, for instance. Many of us feel compelled to stay connected, to share every moment, to keep up with the endless scroll. But what happens when you log off for a day, a week, or even a month? You start to notice how much of that noise was unnecessary. You begin to appreciate the quiet moments that often get drowned out. This principle extends beyond the digital world. When you step back from a project, a conversation, or even a routine, you allow yourself the chance to see it with fresh eyes. Absence has a way of sharpening our focus and deepening our appreciation for what truly matters. It's like taking a step back from a painting. You start to see the whole picture, not just the brushstrokes. So, where in your life could a little absence make a big difference? Is it in your work, your relationships, or even your daily habits? By stepping back, even briefly, you create the opportunity to return with greater clarity, gratitude, and purpose. How might your life shift if you gave yourself the gift of space? At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a profound discipline, the mastery of restraint. Seneca famously said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." This isn't just about holding back words or actions. It's about creating a pause between stimulus and response, a moment where we can choose how to act rather than reacting on impulse. Restraint is a skill, one that requires practice and intention. Consider this: when someone says something hurtful or critical, our first instinct is often to defend ourselves, to fire back or correct the perceived injustice. But what if, in that moment, you took a breath? What if you let the urge to respond pass by like a wave, observing it without being swept away? This kind of restraint isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the ability to remain composed, to prioritize long-term peace over short-term satisfaction. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague makes a snide remark. Instead of engaging in the moment, you choose silence. Later, in a calmer setting, you address the issue with clarity and poise. The outcome: you maintain your dignity and resolve the conflict more effectively. Restraint isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about channeling them wisely. So, what impulses do you find hardest to control? Is it the urge to argue, to interrupt, or to react defensively? How might practicing restraint transform those moments into opportunities for growth and understanding? By mastering this discipline, you not only improve your relationships but also cultivate a deeper sense of inner peace. Epictetus once advised, first, learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. This simple yet profound idea underscores the importance of the Stoic pause, a deliberate moment of stillness before we act or speak. In the heat of the moment, our impulses can easily take over, leading to words or actions we might later regret. Pausing, even for a few seconds, can be the difference between escalation and resolution. Consider a situation where you're caught off guard by criticism or a challenging remark. Instead of immediately reacting, you take a breath. That brief pause allows you to step back to consider the consequences of your response. It's not just about avoiding conflict, it's about responding with intention rather than reacting out of habit. For example, imagine you're in a tense conversation with a coworker. They make a comment that feels dismissive or unfair. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself or fire back. But what if instead you paused? In that moment of stillness, you regain control over your emotions. You give yourself the space to ask, what's the most constructive way to handle this? The Stoic pause isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about choosing how to express them in a way that serves your higher goals. So, how might a moment of pause change your daily interactions? Could it help you navigate disagreements with more grace, or allow you to respond to challenges with greater clarity? By incorporating this practice into your life, you create a habit of thoughtful, deliberate action that not only benefits you but also those around you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This idea speaks to the profound impact of our inner state on our outer presence. In a world filled with constant communication, texts, emails, notifications, it's easy to mistake busyness for connection. But true presence isn't about how much you say or how often you're heard. It's about the quality of your attention. Think about the last time you had a conversation where you felt truly seen and heard. Chances are the other person wasn't just physically there, they were mentally and emotionally present too. Now imagine applying that same level of focus to your daily interactions. What could that do for your relationships, your work, or even your sense of self? Presence is a quiet strength. It's the ability to be fully engaged in the moment, to let go of distractions, and to connect deeply with what's happening right now. For example, picture yourself enjoying a meal with a loved one. Instead of checking your phone or planning your next task, you're fully there, savoring the flavors, listening to the stories, and sharing the experience. That's the power of presence. It's not about adding more to your plate. It's about fully experiencing what's already on it. So, when do you feel most present in your life? Is it when you're immersed in a creative project, walking in nature, or simply enjoying a quiet moment alone? How can you cultivate that sense of presence more intentionally, making it a cornerstone of how you engage with the world? By choosing presence over noise, you create a space where meaningful connections can flourish and where life feels richer and more alive. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, wrote, "Each night before you sleep, ask yourself, what did I do today? What could I have done better?" This practice of self-reflection wasn't just a habit for him, it was a cornerstone of his philosophy. Imagine ending each day not with mindless scrolling or exhaustion, but with a few quiet moments to review your actions, thoughts, and emotions. Self-reflection is more than just thinking about your day, it's about learning from it. It's a way to process your experiences, to celebrate your progress, and to identify areas for growth. Journaling, as Seneca suggested, is one of the most effective tools for this. It doesn't have to be elaborate, just a few sentences can help you untangle your thoughts and gain clarity. For instance, let's say you had a difficult conversation with a friend. Instead of replaying it in your mind or letting it simmer, you write it down. As you do, you start to see the situation more objectively. You notice where you might have reacted defensively or missed an opportunity to listen. This isn't about judgment, it's about understanding. By reflecting on your day, you create a space to process emotions silently without needing to involve others. It's a way to take ownership of your inner world, to transform confusion into insight. So, what might happen if you took just 5 minutes each evening to reflect? What patterns, strengths, or opportunities could you uncover over time? Self-reflection isn't just a practice, it's a path to deeper self-awareness and a more intentional life. A conflict is an inevitable part of life, but not every disagreement needs to escalate. Epictetus wisely said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.'" In other words, not every comment or criticism deserves a response. Silence can be a shield, protecting you from unnecessary battles that drain your energy and focus. Picture this: a coworker makes a sarcastic remark about your presentation. Your instinct might be to fire back, to defend yourself, but what if instead you let the comment hang in the air, unacknowledged? By choosing silence, you refuse to engage in the pettiness. You take the power out of their words and deny them the reaction they might have been seeking. This isn't about ignoring problems or suppressing your feelings. It's about recognizing that not every hill is worth dying on. Some conflicts are simply distractions, pulling you away from what truly matters. Walking away from a petty disagreement doesn't make you weak, it makes you discerning. It shows that you value your peace and energy more than the fleeting satisfaction of winning an argument. So, the next time you're tempted to engage in a verbal sparring match, pause and ask yourself, is this worth my time and energy? What could I gain or preserve by choosing silence instead? By mastering this practice, you not only avoid unnecessary conflict, but also create space for more meaningful, constructive interactions. What battles could you step away from today simply by staying silent? Seneca once remarked, "He who cannot keep silence cannot speak." At first, this might seem paradoxical. How can silence be a form of communication? Yet, in reality, silence can speak volumes. It's not the absence of words that matters, but the presence of intention. When you choose silence, you project a quiet confidence that says, "I don't need to prove myself." This is especially powerful in leadership. Consider a CEO in a high-stakes meeting, faced with challenging questions or criticism. Instead of jumping to justify or explain, they pause. They let the moment settle, allowing their calm demeanor to fill the room. That silence isn't empty, it's deliberate. It communicates control, thoughtfulness, and an unshakable sense of self. People can sense when someone is truly grounded in their confidence, and silence amplifies that presence. It's not about having all the answers or dominating the conversation. It's about showing that you're secure enough to listen, to reflect, and to respond on your own terms. So, how does this apply to your life? Think about a situation where you felt the urge to speak up, to defend or assert yourself. What might happen if instead you chose silence? Could it reflect a deeper sense of self-assurance? Silence isn't just a tool for leaders. It's a practice for anyone seeking to embody confidence in their daily interactions. When you embrace it, you don't just appear more composed, you become more composed. How might silence transform the way others see you, and more importantly, the way you see yourself? Timing is everything, and the Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, because an artful life requires being prepared to meet and withstand sudden and unexpected attacks." This idea extends to our words. Knowing when to speak and when to hold back is a skill that can transform how we navigate challenges and opportunities. Think about a time when you shared an idea or opinion too soon. Maybe it was in a meeting where enthusiasm led you to speak before fully thinking things through. The result, your point wasn't received as well as you'd hoped, or worse, it created unintended tension. The Stoics teach us that speaking only when necessary isn't about withholding, it's about ensuring your words carry the weight they deserve. Imagine you're brainstorming with a team. Instead of jumping in with the first thought that comes to mind, you listen, observe, and wait for the right moment to contribute. When you do, your input is more thoughtful, more relevant, and more likely to make an impact. This isn't just strategy, it's respect for yourself, for your ideas, and for the people you're sharing them with. So, when have you regretted speaking too soon? What might have changed if you'd waited for the right moment? By mastering the wisdom of timing, you not only elevate your words but also your presence, creating space for deeper understanding and connection. Actions have a language of their own, one that often speaks louder than words ever could. Epictetus put it simply, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. At its core, this idea is about aligning your actions with your values, even when it's inconvenient or goes unnoticed. Think about it. How often do we promise to do something only to let it slip, or express care in words but fail to follow through with meaningful gestures? Stoicism teaches us that integrity isn't about what we say, it's about what we do. For instance, imagine a friend is going through a tough time. You might say, "Let me know if you need anything," but how often do those words translate into action? Now, instead of waiting for them to ask for help, you take the initiative. You drop off a meal, lend a listening ear, or simply show up. These small but deliberate acts don't just express care, they embody it. They show that you're willing to put in the effort to prioritize someone else's well-being over your own convenience. This is the essence of Stoic action. It's not about grand gestures or public recognition, but about consistent, values-driven behavior. So, how do your actions measure up to your intentions? Are there areas where your words and deeds might not align? By focusing on what you do rather than what you say, you create a ripple effect, one that builds trust, strengthens relationships, and solidifies your character. After all, actions don't just speak, they prove. At the heart of Stoicism lies a profound challenge to rise above the pull of ego. Seneca once said, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectation, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." This isn't just about managing time, it's about managing the way we see ourselves. Ego thrives on validation, on the need to be seen, heard, and admired. But what if true strength comes not from seeking attention, but from letting it go? Consider a moment when you've had the urge to boast or prove yourself. Maybe it was after a hard-earned achievement or in a conversation where you wanted to impress. The temptation to speak up, to make sure others know your worth, can be strong. But what happens if instead you choose silence? By resisting that urge, you're not diminishing your accomplishments, you're transcending the need for external approval. Silence becomes a mirror reflecting back your true confidence. For example, imagine you've just completed a major project at work. Instead of immediately sharing every detail, you let the results speak for themselves. That quiet restraint sends a powerful message. You're secure enough in your abilities that you don't need constant validation. The Stoic approach to ego isn't about self-denial, it's about self-mastery. It's recognizing that our worth doesn't depend on others' opinions or our own need to assert it. So, how could silence help you move beyond ego? Where in your life could letting go of the need to be noticed create space for something deeper, something more authentic? By embracing silence, you step into a new kind of freedom, one where you're no longer ruled by the desire to prove yourself, but guided by the quiet strength of knowing who you are. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You don't have to be upset by what other people do or say." At first glance, this might seem like a simple piece of advice, but it's actually a profound challenge to one of our most deeply ingrained habits: reacting. The Stoics believed that our peace of mind isn't determined by what happens around us, but by how we choose to respond. Non-reactivity isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about creating a space between what happens and how you act. Imagine you're in a situation where you're being criticized. Maybe it's from a boss, a friend, or even a stranger online. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself, to argue, or to lash out. But what if instead you took a step back? What if you allowed yourself the moment to pause, to breathe, and to observe the criticism without immediately reacting? This isn't about agreeing with the criticism or dismissing it entirely. It's about giving yourself the freedom to choose your response rather than being controlled by the situation. Let's say, for example, someone accuses you of making a mistake at work. Instead of feeling attacked or scrambling to justify yourself, you calmly acknowledge their concern and ask for more details. By staying composed, you not only maintain your dignity but also create an opportunity for constructive dialogue. Non-reactivity shifts the dynamic from confrontation to collaboration. So, how might practicing non-reactivity change the way you handle challenges in your own life? Could it help you navigate conflicts with more grace, or allow you to see criticism as an opportunity for growth rather than a threat? By embracing this Stoic principle, you cultivate a sense of inner stability, one that remains unshaken even in the face of provocation. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters." This might sound like a call to humility, but it's also a subtle reminder of the importance of respecting others' autonomy. Relationships thrive not just on closeness, but on the ability to give space for growth, for reflection, and for individuality. Think about a time when you felt smothered by someone else's expectations or constant presence. Now flip the scenario. Imagine being the one who steps back, who allows someone the freedom to navigate their own path. It's not about disengaging or showing indifference. It's about trusting the other person enough to let them find their way. For instance, consider a parent watching their child struggle with a difficult decision. The instinct might be to step in, to offer advice, or even solve the problem for them. But what if instead the parent simply listened, offering support without stepping into the driver's seat? That act of stepping back gives the child the chance to grow, to learn, and to build confidence in their own abilities. The same principle applies to friendships, romantic partnerships, and even professional relationships. Giving space doesn't mean withdrawing. It means creating room for the other person to breathe, to think, and to be themselves. So, how could this practice transform your closest relationships? Is there someone in your life who might benefit from a little more room to grow? By granting that space, you're not just showing respect for their autonomy, you're strengthening the foundation of trust and understanding that holds your connection together. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is simply step back and let them step forward. there's a quiet strength in solitude that the Stoics understood deeply. Seneca once said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay, but the greatest remedy for the mind is solitude." In a world that glorifies constant connection and activity, stepping away to be alone can feel counterintuitive. But solitude isn't about isolation. It's about creating the space to reconnect with yourself. Think about it. How often do we truly listen to our own thoughts without the noise of external demands or distractions? Solitude offers a rare opportunity to pause, reflect, and recalibrate. It's like hitting the reset button for your mind and spirit. For example, consider taking a solo retreat, whether it's a weekend in nature, a day at a quiet cabin, or even a few hours in a park. Without the usual interruptions, you might notice thoughts and feelings you've been pushing aside. You might find clarity on a decision, uncover a new perspective, or simply feel a renewed sense of peace. Seneca believed that solitude wasn't just a luxury, it was a necessity for a well-lived life. It's in these moments of stillness that we can process our experiences, learn from our mistakes, and prepare for what's ahead. So, what insights could solitude bring to your life? Could it help you untangle a problem, recharge your energy, or reconnect with your values? By embracing solitude, you're not just stepping away from the world, you're stepping into a deeper understanding of yourself and the life you want to create. Patience isn't just about waiting, it's about how we wait. Marcus Aurelius said, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. You must stand ready to face what comes with firmness and without complaint." This idea shifts patience from a passive act to an active form of wisdom. It's not about sitting idly, it's about enduring challenges with grace and using the time to prepare, reflect, and grow. Consider this: when you're stuck in traffic, you could spend the time fuming at the delay, or you could use it to listen to something inspiring, to think through a plan, or simply to observe the world around you. The situation hasn't changed, but your response to it has. That's the Stoic approach to patience, finding purpose in the pause. Let's say you're waiting for the right moment to pitch an idea at work. Instead of rushing in, you take the time to refine your proposal, to gather feedback, and to ensure you're fully prepared. When the moment arrives, you're not just ready, you're confident. This kind of patience transforms frustration into opportunity. It's about recognizing that timing matters just as much as action. How might patience change the way you handle setbacks or delays in your own life? Could it help you approach tough situations with a calmer mindset, or turn waiting periods into productive ones? Patience isn't just a virtue, it's a strategy, one that allows you to move through life with intention rather than haste. One of the most liberating Stoic practices is learning to let go of what you cannot control. Epictetus taught, "Some things are within our power while others are not." This simple distinction is the foundation of Stoic wisdom. It's about recognizing where your influence ends and where acceptance begins. Think about it. How much of our stress and frustration comes from trying to control the uncontrollable? Whether it's the opinions of others, the outcomes of our efforts, or even the unexpected twists of life, clinging to these things only drains our energy and peace. Imagine you're worried about what a colleague thinks of your work. You might find yourself replaying conversations, analyzing their reactions, or even trying to win their approval. But here's the truth: their opinion is theirs, not yours. It's beyond your control. By letting go of the need to manage how others perceive you, you free yourself from an endless cycle of validation seeking. This isn't about indifference, it's about focus. It's about redirecting your energy toward what you can control: your actions, your mindset, and your values. For instance, instead of stressing over whether someone approves of your choices, focus on making choices that align with your principles. Letting go isn't easy, it's a practice, one that requires awareness and intention. But the rewards are profound. It's like putting down a heavy weight you didn't realize you were carrying. So, what could you let go of to find greater peace? Is it a need for perfection, a fear of failure, or the opinions of others? By embracing this Stoic practice, you create space for clarity, calm, and a deeper sense of freedom. After all, true peace begins when you stop trying to control what's never truly been in your hands. Stoicism isn't about always staying silent or always speaking up, it's about finding the balance between the two. Seneca once advised, "Speech is the mirror of the soul. As a man speaks, so he is." In other words, the words we choose and the timing of those words reflect who we are. This isn't just about being eloquent, it's about being intentional. Stoicism teaches us to weigh our words carefully, to speak when it adds value, and to hold back when silence serves a greater purpose. Take, for example, a leader in a high-pressure situation. Let's say a team is scrambling to meet a deadline and tensions are running high. The leader could jump in with criticism, pointing out every mistake, or they could pause, observe, and then offer guidance that's both constructive and calm. Choosing silence in that initial moment allows the leader to gather their thoughts, to avoid reacting out of frustration, and to respond in a way that uplifts rather than demoralizes. This balance isn't just for leaders, it's for anyone navigating relationships, conflicts, or even everyday conversations. When we speak from a place of thoughtfulness rather than impulse, our words carry more weight. So, how do you begin to cultivate this balance? Start by asking yourself two questions. Will my words add value? And is this the right moment to speak? Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Other times, your words can inspire, clarify, or heal. The key is to develop the discernment to know the difference. How might this practice of balancing silence and speech transform the way you communicate in your own life? By mastering this Stoic principle, you not only enhance your relationships but also deepen your understanding of when to let silence do the talking. Throughout this video, we've explored the profound Stoic practices of silence and absence, tools that go far beyond mere restraint. These principles teach us how to navigate life with intention, how to reclaim control over our emotions, and how to create meaningful connections through the power of what we choose not to say or do. From the quiet strength of listening to the transformative pause of reflection, these strategies reveal that sometimes the most impactful actions are the ones we don't take. At the heart of it all is self-control, the ability to master our impulses, to respond rather than react, and to find peace in the spaces we create. Presence, too, plays a vital role. It's about showing up fully, not just physically but mentally and emotionally, in every moment. And patience, perhaps the most underrated virtue, teaches us to embrace life's timing, to trust the process, and to find purpose even in the waiting. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the essence of Stoicism, the understanding that our strength lies not in controlling the world around us, but in mastering our inner world. So, as you move forward, consider how these practices might shape your own journey. Where could silence deepen your relationships? How might absence create space for growth? And what could patience reveal about your path? These aren't just philosophical ideas, they're practical tools for living a more intentional, grounded, and fulfilling life. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. How do you see silence and absence playing a role in your own life? And if you found value in this exploration, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit or subscribing for more insights like these. Together, let's continue to uncover the timeless wisdom of Stoicism and apply it to the challenges and opportunities of our modern life.